Hi there, my name is Britt Skinner and I work in the advocacy department here at the BCGEU. And I'm here to talk about the most important case when it comes to discipline in a unionized setting, William Scott. If you can get the principles of this case down, you're 90% on your way to being a labor lawyer, but without the crushing student loans. So the William Scott decision came out in 1976. So this is what we call an oldie but a goodie. And that decision set out the 3 questions that have to be answered when the employer disciplines a unionized employee. Number 1, was discipline warranted? Did the facts make out that that employee should have been disciplined? Number 2, if they should have been disciplined, if you answer yes to that first question, was the discipline that they were given excessive, or could a lesser discipline have done the same job? And the third question is, if it was excessive, what is the appropriate amount of discipline that ought to have been meted out given the offense? Let's take an example in order to see how this works. Let's say you have an employee who is a huge Britney Spears fan. The ringtone is, "Oops, I did it again." She's got a "Baby One More Time" tattoo on her back. She's in it. And let's say the Britney Spears concert came to town and she called in sick that day. Now, the employer might reasonably think, I bet she skipped out on this shift in order to go to the concert. And when she comes in, they bring her in for a meeting and she says, "No, absolutely not, I was ill." And they say, "Nope, sorry, 5-day suspension." Now, they have nothing to go on, they have no proof of that, and the onus is on them. In that case, they wouldn't make out the facts. It would end at step 1 of the William Scott question. No discipline. Except for, of course, later when she posts on Facebook her pictures from the Britney Spears concert with a hashtag #NotThatInnocent. But that's for another topic. So let's say we have a long-term care aide, and she shows up 15 minutes late for work. And the employer gives her a letter of expectation at the end of the day. And a letter of expectation isn't discipline, it just says these are the expectations we have of you. And so about a month or so later, she's 30 minutes late for work. The employer pulls her in and says, "This is unacceptable, we're giving you a 2-day suspension." And she says, "Wait, I've got an explanation." They say, "We don't care about your explanation. The clients need you, your coworkers need you to be on time, 2-day suspension," and that's it. Now, as the steward in this scenario, maybe you go and talk to this worker and you say, "Well, you said you had an explanation. I'm interested to what that was." And she says, "Actually, my marriage is in trouble. I've left my husband." It's very important. Those facts are so important because when you're looking at that second question of whether or not it's excessive discipline, the mitigating factors become the key. She's coming from an extremely stressful family situation, so family status here is going to come into play. But also, if you look at a long-term employee and they've never really had a problem with tardiness, and all of a sudden there's this blip, this aberration, well then it's important that the employer asks some questions about that. Why an aberration right now? Another factor could be that they would look at would be consistency of discipline. Other people who are 30 minutes late, did they receive lesser suspensions? Okay, so it's excessive, the 2-day suspension. What should we replace that with? What would be an appropriate discipline? Well, I would argue as her labor lawyer that there should be no discipline. Because the employer is obliged to ask for her explanation and she's allowed to give a justification for why she was late and they failed to do so, the employer breached their duty in this case. Facts are key in any discipline case, and the steward is on the ground. They're the closest in time to the incident occurring. So as a steward, you take good notes and you find out the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why of the grievance and the discipline. As you're gathering that, know that you're getting everything that we need in order to fight for these workers' rights.